what is the most important day on the calendar? Let me say it to you. Like, what is the most important day on your calendar every year?
It's probably Christmas, I would say, yeah.
So what is Christmas? It's a birth. It's a beginning. It's a new, but what is the only event for which there might not have been a preceding day, let alone, a repetition of that day, the origin of the universe? In other words, we go back from now, late 2024, we go back 13.8 billion years. Let's say we're talking on a Thursday today. We'll come back. There'll be some Thursday, just counting 24 hours. Doesn't mean the Earth was here. Doesn't mean the sun was here. Just counting back in units of 24 hours. Back. Comes some Thursday. And, perhaps that was the day the actual Big Bang occurred on, if we could keep track of it. I mean, it's totally practical to do this type of calculation. And we don't actually know what happened on the Wednesday before that day. That's a concept. You can think about it, but you can't actually necessarily know what happened. And so that is why I feel like cosmology is the ultimate, the most primitive, primordial subject, and why it evokes something in people. There's reasons why the caves of Lascaux, 40,000 years ago, they weren't depicting like, well, here's how you make a good addle or spear, whatever. They were depicting like the stars and the movements of things.
Well, and people then, of course, they started to intuit the fact that there was this is where, when astrology and astronomy were still rightly intermediated, because the ancient people discovered that there was a relationship between the events of the heaven and the transformations on Earth, right? The movement of the seasons. And that was obviously of critical importance. It's going to predict the movement of animals, for example, or when your crops should be planted. But just that concordance of the cosmic with the practical.
Right.
It's an unbelievable fact of nature to begin with.
Visceral, right? And by the way, it didn't have to be that way. Most stars are not like our sun. Our sun is not unique. I shouldn't say unique. Sorry. Our sun is unusual in that it's a singular star. The preponderance of stars that you look up and see on a dark night sky are multiples, pairs, binaries, triples, maybe even clusters of stars. And that would be very different. That would mean you wouldn't have the ability to see, because there'd always be a star out, effectively. They won't orbit right next to each other like they in Tatooine and in Star Wars. Remember, there's a red sun. But you don't have constellations. You don't have seasons and tracking. You don't have agriculture, the human being's first technology. And, there's some of my colleagues, and I'd love to talk to you about the psychology of aliens. There's a huge murmuration in the zeitgeist right now, both that super advanced technology is visiting the Earth, incomprehensible distances and so forth, and simultaneously that there are untold worlds yet to be discovered where life is not only abundant, but it's also maybe superior to us. And maybe they are so advanced and so in possession of Moore's law for 80 more doubling periods than we've enjoyed it for, that in fact they've created us in sort of giant silicon apparatus. This is called the simulation hypothesis. And by the way, the greatest adherents to both the alien reality hypothesis and the simulation hypothesis are atheists, right? I mean,
yes,
these are both now supplanting the need for...
Well, and atheists get all their religion from science fiction. Right. I'm dead serious about that. Okay. Oh, sure, because the mythological pattern of science fiction stories is crystal clear. I mean, Star Wars was predicated on Joseph Campbell's analysis of hero's journey,
right?
Sure, of course.
That is true.
Yeah, it's definitely
but
the
it's
case.
Natural, right? Yeah. So you're going to subordinate your belief in a God that is Judeo-Christian, say, because then you'd have to do things, right? Then you'd have to, have obligations on you to the community, to your wife, to your parents, perhaps.
Pesky sacrifices.
To sacrifices, to the Sabbath. You might have obligations, but I don't need those if I believe in an alien who's on Proxima Centauri.
No, I never thought about that particular twist.
I don't have that,
Yeah, that's a good one. So you get all the advantages of the assumption of advanced intelligence with none of the moral requirements.
Right, and the tuning. You have a fine tuner, right? These same people will reject the arguments of design from fine tuning, which I'm not saying is I'm comfortable with those ideas. We discussed that already. I mean, we can put up many counterexamples of things that are exquisitely tuned that didn't have a designer whatsoever. And the Earth's distance to the sun is not exquisitely tuned in a sense that necessitated a designer to do it. In other words, we wouldn't, the anthropic principle would suggest we wouldn't be here if the things were radically different from the way it is. And actually, a lot of the parameters in cosmology and particle physics and symmetries that we talked about earlier are not as finely tuned as a radio dial, if you remember those. You and I do, but most of the younger folks won't. But you got to tune it. But actually, you don't have to tune it that exquisitely any better, in fact, than the universe was tuned along the lines of certain parameters. But this alien, kind of hypothesis has gotten a lot of attention. It's political ramifications. It has military ramifications. Right. What is it meant to do? But I'm curious from your perspective, putting on my podcaster hat now, is there, this compulsion to sort of, feel that there will be, you're familiar with the Drake equation. Maybe you've heard of it. I can describe it.
About UFOs.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And he noted, because the belief in UFOs historically cycles.
Yes.
And it tends to make itself manifest more frequently in times of crisis. And he probably describes in his book on UFOs the answer to the question that you're posing.
Really?
Because what you're really asking about is the metaphysics of materialist atheism, right? The mythological metaphysics of materialist atheism.
And impulse, the urge, yes.
Well, the materialist atheist might say we have no religion. It's like, you do. Wrong.
Right.
You have an unrecognized religion.
You don't believe in nothing, you believe in anything, right?
It's you're laying out some of the trappings that tend to come along with that.
And so too,
it's because you can't organize your existence in life without imposing a story on the world. There's no way of doing it. Your life is a story in the world.
Is that because of the intolerance that we as humans have towards ambiguity, right? In other words, the battle over abortion or the battle over immigration.
It's partly that. It's partly because if you fail to specify, you drown in ambiguity. And anxiety technically is a response to ambiguity, right? That's technically, anxiety signals the emergence of entropy, right? And positive emotion, I learned this from Carl Friston, because I didn't know this. Positive emotion signifies a reduction in entropy in relationship to a goal.
A structure, yes.
And anxiety itself signals the sudden emergence of entropy.